the trigger, so to speak, of this gathering of texts is whether to understand, whether to know whether there are going to be gerus, conversions in the world to come or not. The truth is, there's no yes and no answer. Even in the sources that we're going to learn, you're going to see some sources say yes, some sources say no. And of course, I'm nobody to say, yeah, this source is right, this source is wrong. So I can tell you what the sources are, I can tell you what they say, and I can tell you what I think. But in any case, in these types of situations where a person is not sure, not because I'm ignorant, so I don't know, okay, you don't know, go ask somebody else. Rather, nobody knows. So you can say, I think this, I think that, that's okay, you can think whatever you want, but these are the sources. And beyond, so to speak, beyond the sources, okay, it's just your opinion. You can think whatever you want. There's another source I didn't write down. There's another one. We can learn it afterwards. It really is not going to change much. And it's not such a nice source. That's why I didn't write it down, because it's also not clear. So what am I going to add? Like more confusion to the confusion we already have. So let's go. A few sources come from the Talmud. I wrote it down over there, then where they come from. There's one source which is very interesting, Droshes Aran. We're going to learn it. And then there are three sources from the Rambam. First source is from Brachos 57b. The Torah the Talmud is talking there, is talking about blessings. The whole tractate doesn't talk only about blessings. Lots of things, lots of subjects is not for now. But in this particular page, the Talmud is talking about blessings. Which blessings you do for different types of situations, not for food. So that's a different subject. So the Talmud says like this. It's talking about idolatry from the land of Israel. If you find a place where in the land of Israel, where there was idolatry, like a temple of idolatry or whatever, and it was taken away, ne'ekra means like taken from root, uprooted, out, no more idolatry, and you find this place, you should say the following blessing. Baruch, that God uprooted idolatry from our land. Okay, that's a blessing. And just as it was uprooted from this place, it should be also uprooted from all the places of Israel. Whatever it means, the land of Israel, where Jewish people live, it doesn't really matter, but whatever. It should be uprooted from all the places. And continues the blessing. And return the heart of your servants, the Jewish people, to serve you. Because if there was a place in the land of Israel where they used to do idolatry, and if you read the Tanakh, the Sefer Melachim, the Kings, the Book of Kings, etc., Jewish people, the Book of Shoftim, Judges, they used to do so much idolatry and so many different types of idolatry. The Torah itself talks about idolatry, moilech, and all kinds of things. So you know what? The Jews also did idolatry. So if you found a place in the land of Israel where there was idolatry and it was uprooted, make the heart of your servants return to serve you. Leave the idolatry and serve God. That's the blessing. But this is only talking about the land of Israel. Uvechutz la'aretz, the Talmud continues. Outside of Israel, ein tzarich loymar v'hoshev le'ovdeim le'avdecha. And out of the land of Israel, it's not necessary to say the last part of the blessing. Return the heart of your servants to serve you. Why? Why shouldn't you say this? Because most of the people are not Jewish, are goyim, not Jewish. So there's no need to say that should everybody return to serve you. What do you mean? They didn't serve God before. So how can you say they should return to serve you? It doesn't make sense. So don't say the last part of the blessing. The non-Jews, usually they were idolaters. Today we can argue this, but whatever. In times of the Talmud, people were pagan people, idolaters, etc. So it doesn't make sense to say the last part of the blessing. They should return. What do you mean return? They're not going to return to anything. They didn't serve God before. This is the first opinion in the Talmud. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, it says Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, no, wait a second, I don't agree to this. Even outside of the land of Israel, you have to say this. You have to say that people should return to serve God. Why? Because in the future, all the non-Jews are going to convert. How do you know that? Because it's written, etc. It's a pasuk in Zephaniah chapter 3, number 9. It's a famous verse. Then it means in the coming of Mashiach, I will turn to all the nations with a clear language, etc. Like, go read the pasuk. The Talmud doesn't really. This is very interesting in Talmud itself in learning. I don't need to quote you the whole verse. Like, you should know the verse yourself. So go read it. Whatever. I'm quoting you the first part that you need. That God is going to turn to all the nations. So here we see clearly, like, there's no way to understand it in a different way, that Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is saying clearly that the non-Jews are going to convert in the times of Mashiach. That's what he's saying. Because Zephaniah, the verse that he brings as a proof, Zephaniah is talking about the times of Mashiach. As then God is going to turn to the nations. Nobody argues, everybody agrees that this verse of Zephaniah is talking about Mashiach. So clearly, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is bringing this verse as a proof. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar has to be talking about Mashiach, the times of Mashiach, whatever that means. This is the first source. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar clearly says non-Jews are going to convert. Therefore, which is just in our discussion, so to speak, it's just a side thing. But therefore, if you go outside of Eretz Israel, outside of the land of Israel, and you find a place where there was idolatry, and it was uprooted, you should say the last part of the blessing also. Make the people return to God, to serve God. Not because they served and they left and they have to return. No, because everybody's going to serve God. Why? Yeah, they're going to convert. This is source number one. Source number two, same Talmud, but in different place. Yevamos 24b. Tanu Rabbanan. Our sages taught the following. And this teaching is in many places in the Talmud. It's not just here, but it's the same. So we read one place, and the same thing applies to all the places. Tanu Rabbanan, our sages taught, we do not receive converts in the days of Mashiach. Stop. That's it. Just one very small idea. We're going to continue reading, but just one more small idea. In Talmud, when you learn Talmud, there are many rules you have to know. They are not written in the Talmud itself, but are rules that are given together with the Talmud to understand the Talmud. Today they are written in different books, but you have to know these rules. If you don't know these rules, it's difficult to understand what the Talmud is talking about. One of the rules, and I'm just giving you like a very small Talmud class, a very small. One of the rules is you have Tanaim and Amoraim. Tanaim means the rabbis of the age, so to speak, of the Mishnah. We're talking about around year 190 from the Common Era. Around that year, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, he wrote the Mishnah. Okay, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is one of those guys, so to speak. It's a Tana. It's one of those teachers from the times of the Mishnah. Point. Let's go now to Yevamos again. When it says Tanu Rabbanan, our sages taught that also comes from the same time, Tanaim. Why am I saying this? Because an Amoira, which means the second generation after the Mishnah, the generation of the Gemara itself, an Amoira cannot argue with a Tana. No, it's like forbidden. It doesn't work. Unless an Amoira, like a lower generation, has another opinion of a Tana to say whatever he's saying. So you can say, okay, I hold like the other opinion. But you cannot make new opinions. There's no such a thing in Torah. So what I'm trying to bring out is that, okay, we have a clear argument over here. We have Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar saying people are going to convert, non-Jews are going to convert. And here we have somebody, we don't know his name. This is very common. It says Tan Rabbanan, our sages, whomever it was, we don't know. But these two sages, they come from the same era, so to speak, same times. And they can argue between them. It's not a problem. It's a, so to speak, permitted argument. And you can hold in these particular subjects, you can hold in any way you want. I hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Like if Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar wouldn't exist, or he wouldn't say this thing as a sitting list guy, and in the future they're going to convert, if we only had what the Talmud says in Yevamos 24, we do not receive converts in the days of Mashiach, so there's no argument over here. Everybody agrees to this. That's it. No, but I would like to convert. Forget it. It says clearly, there's no conversions in the days of Mashiach. Point. No more argument. However, you have another opinion. The other opinion is Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. He says, yes, there's going to be conversions. Can a rabbi come and tell you, hey, I read that we do not receive converts in the days of Mashiach? Yes, the rabbi can do that. But you can say, I hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. He said that. Go look. It says in the Talmud. Okay. Kayotze boy, continuing the quote in Yevamos, Kayotze boy, the same thing, Loi kivlu gerim, loi b'yemei David, v'loi b'yemei Shlomo. They did not receive converts in the days of David HaMelech, King David, and not in the days of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. Omar Rabbi Eliezer, said Rabbi Eliezer, with Mikra, what's the verse? How do you know that the Jewish judges, whatever, did not receive converts in those times, David and Shlomo? How do you know? It's a verse. I don't remember exactly what the verse is. I think it's in Ishaya, but whatever. The verse is like this: Hen gor yogur efes me'oisi mi gor itach olai chipol. Effectively, Hen gor yogur will leave somebody, or will leave something, efes something of me, me'oisi, of me. Then he says, mi gor itach, who will live with you, like the Jewish people, who will be with you, who will convert, so to speak, to be with you, olaich ipol, those who fell with you. If you are with the Jewish people when they're in a very low situation, they're suffering, they get massacred, and etc., and you convert right now, good. Because you're sharing the suffering, so to speak, with the Jewish people. That's okay. But if you want to convert when everything is fine, and Mashiach came and everybody, wow, Jewish people is the most important thing in the world. No, don't convert now. I don't believe you. You want to convert because we are in a very high situation, not because you really want to be Jewish. That's what the commentaries, everybody agrees to this, say why we didn't receive converts in the days of David and Shlomo. Because the Jewish people were like in the Senate, in the most higher situation, and everybody wanted to be Jewish. Of course. One point that I did not write over here, because I forgot to write it down, but it's easy to find. In the Megillah Esther, in the story of Purim, etc., in Megillah Esther, it says very clear towards the end that after the Jewish people won the war, outside of Shushan, the city of Shushan, inside the city of Shushan, etc., the Megillah says, "V'Rabbi me'amei ha'aretz misyahadim." The people saw that the Jewish people were very strong, so to speak, and lots of the people, the nations, they converted. Misyahadim, from Lashon Yahadus. They became Jewish. So we see something like different than what the Talmud is saying. The Talmud is saying when the Jewish people is in a very high situation, we don't accept converts because your conversion is not sincere. You want to convert because you want to be on top of everybody else. However, we do see a time when the Jewish people were very high and still we received converts. So it's not like black and white. Yeah and no. We receive, we don't receive. No, it's not so simple. Not so simple. And it's a verse in Megillah Esther, like you can't, so to speak, go against it. Because it's a verse. And it's clear, like no second explanations. People were converting because they saw Mordechai and Esther and Purim, etc., etc. Okay. Commentary of Rashi to Yevamos. Hengor, he's explaining the verse, the way Rabbi Eliezer is looking to explain why don't we receive converts in the days of David and Shlomo, David and Shlomo. Hengor, Habal Leisgayer, says Rashi, a person that comes to convert, Yogor Efes Mioisi, Beot Sheinani Mochem is Gayer, Dehainu, Bezman Hazeh. Yogor will leave Efes Mioisi, nothing out of me, says God, so to speak. Do we see God today? No. Do we understand him? And no, forget it. Today, if you're going to convert today, that means not really literally today, but I mean in these times, if a person goes to convert in these times, you're not going to really enjoy quote unquote God, because nobody sees God. In the days of Mashiach, yes, we're going to see him. That's why, again, Rashi is explaining the idea of Rabbi Eliezer inside the verse of Ishaya. Abal is Gayer, a person that comes to convert, Yogur will leave Efes Meoisi, nothing of me, says God. You're not going to feel me, you're not going to see me, you're not. Be'oit shein ani imochem, so Rashi explains, while I am not with them, says God. Not that God is not with the Jewish people. What he's saying is, we don't see God. You open your eyes and you don't see him. Then you can convert this guy here. Today, if you really want to be a Jew and are ready to live with the Jews while God is hidden from the Jews, okay, come and convert. Continues Rashi. Mi God itach alay chipol. Mi God itach be'ani useich, who lived with you while you were poor, kasher omarta, like I said, alay chipol, leilam haba. That person is going to be with you fall, quote unquote, in the world to come. Those who were with the Jewish people when they were, quote unquote, poor, they were going to live, fall, quote unquote, live with the Jewish people in the world to come. Again, the idea is either convert now or forget it. You're not going to convert in the world to come. If you live with the Jewish people while God was hidden, then you will live with the Jewish people when God is revealed. This is what he's saying in Yevamos 24. Clearly, again, arguing with the first quote of the Talmud in Brachos. Okay. Let's go now to a different type of source, completely different. Drashes Aran. Ran was Rabbeinu Nissim. He lived in Spain, year 1300s. The book is like huge. There's lots of themes and subjects. It was one of the greatest. And interestingly, his main book, it's a commentary on Alfasi. Alfasi was Rabbi Yitzchak Alfas. He wrote a book of laws. And the Ran has a huge commentary on this book, and it's so much quoted in law, in Jewish law. It was really a great sage. We're talking about somebody big, so to speak, somebody big. So in addition to his commentaries on law, he has droshes. Droshes means like explanations, and he talks very long talks. This is just a very small quote out of his talks that he's talking about this particular thing. Then he starts talking about something else, whatever. That's why I didn't quote the whole thing. It's too long. It is very, very, very nice text. One of the big promises, so to speak, things that are going to happen when Mashiach comes is the following. Like two dots. As it says in Zephaniah. He quotes the verse. Then I'm going to turn, says Zephaniah, to the nations with a clear language for everybody to call in the name of God and to serve him shoulder to shoulder or all together, whatever, different translations. Okay, what do you want to do with this text? Like, what are you trying to say? Irtze bazeh, the idea of this verse is the following. Ki kol ha'umois yashuvu le'emunaseinu, bichlal ha'torah ubiprateya kefi dateinu. All the nations are going to return to our faith in the general ideas of the Torah and in the detailed ideas of the Torah as we understand it. Everybody's going to convert. And everybody's going to accept our Torah fully. In general and in particular. See that he's quoting exactly the same quote that we spoke before. This is what it says in the Talmud, like parenthesis, explanation to what he's saying. Again, the Ran was one of the big, important rabbis, so to speak, in the history. And when you say something, when these guys talk, they bring proofs. They don't just talk. It's very nice. In YouTube, the rabbi said, yeah, forget it. I don't care about what the rabbi said. When these guys talk, they say, wait a second, this is brought here, and there. So this is what he's doing right now. I just told you, so to speak, the Ran. I just told you everybody's going to be Jewish. Yeah, very nice. Where do you got it from? So he's saying, the Zeu Shekosov. This is the abbreviation, the Zayin in the Shin. Zeu Shekosov. This is what is written in the Talmud, Avodah Zarah, in the page 24. Why is it in parentheses? These two words, Daf Chavdalet, page 24, are not actually from the Ran. Because in the times of the Ran, the Talmud was very different than what we have today. The organization of the Talmud in pages and it was different. So the editors of the Drashes Ran added, so you can go look for it. The Ran only said, this is found in this place in the Talmud, in Avodah Zarah, go look for it. If you're reading me, you should know the whole Talmud by heart. So who cares? You should know where this is. So again, what does it say in the Talmud? My ois v'lei lechavre Rabbi Eliezer. I didn't quote the whole discussion, but he's quoting more of the discussion, leading towards the same place. What did the Chaverim, the colleagues of Rabbi Eliezer answered him? They said to him, Kolzon keidari kapsulach, all the dark sheep are going to be together with you, etc. Omar lahem Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer said to them, Kulam geirim gemurim hem leasid labai. They are all complete converts in the world to come. I didn't quote this before. I'm sorry. I didn't quote this place in the Talmud before. I thought I did, but I didn't. This is another place in the Talmud. I'm sorry. This is another place in the Talmud where we find the same thing. Rabbi Eliezer is saying everybody is going to convert in the world to come. Shene'emar, as it says, it's a different place in the Talmud, but it's quoting the same thing, the same idea. Shene'emar, as it's written, then I will turn to the nations with a clear tongue, a clear language, whatever. So we find now Rabbi Eliezer, which is not the same person as Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, was it before? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, yes. So now you have two guys, so to speak, that think the same thing. You have Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar in Gemara Brachos, and you have Rabbi Eliezer in Avodah Zarah, saying the same thing. Everybody's going to convert, and they learn it from the same verse. So you have two sages learning the same way, the same verse. Continues the Talmud, the Ran is quoting, Maskiv la Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef has a question, strong question. Maskiv is like a really strong question against what we're learning. However, as I told you before, Rabbi, have to understand the structure of the Talmud. We just spoke about what Rabbi Eliezer says. Rabbi Eliezer is Rabbi Eliezer Agoder, Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkenus. You're talking about around year, probably 20, 40 of Common Era, Rabbi Eliezer. And here has a strong question, Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef lived 300 years afterwards. And he is from, quote unquote, the world of Gemara, not the world of the Mishnah. So Rabbi Yosef cannot say Rabbi Eliezer is wrong. He can't. That's the rule of the Talmud. However, he has a strong question on the idea that Rabbi Eliezer is saying. Not that Rabbi Eliezer is wrong. Rather, I'm going to explain to you what Rabbi Eliezer is saying. You understood that Rabbi Eliezer was saying everybody's going to convert. You got it wrong. You didn't understand what Rabbi Eliezer is saying. What is he saying? Rabbi Yosef has a strong question. Dilma, maybe, maybe what Rabbi Eliezer was saying was that the nations of the world are only going to leave idolatry. Not that they're going to convert. You understood wrong, Rabbi Eliezer. You thought he was talking about conversion. What conversion? They're not going to be idolaters. That's all. Are they going to be Jews? No. This is what Rabbi Yosef is asking. Again, not against Rabbi Eliezer. He can't. He's only asking to understand Rabbi Eliezer. Omrulei, they said to Rabbi Yosef, no, Rabbi Yosef, you didn't get it. Look at the verse. The verse says to serve God altogether. What do you mean? What's service of God? Not doing idolatry, but you can steal. Oh yeah, go steal. Just don't be idolater. No, doesn't make sense. That's not service of God. This is what the Ran quoted from the Talmud. So we see clearly, even Rabbi Yosef, in the times of the Gemara, had a question. We answered the question, and Rabbi Yosef, so to speak, shut up. That means he agreed. Otherwise, he would have asked again. No, he didn't ask anything else. That's it. I agree. Hare, now we go back to the Ran, to the text of the Ran. Hare, here you have, here you have clearly that all the nations will go back to our faith, Jewish faith, in all the details of the commandments and all the small nuances, as I explained. So he brought a proof from the Talmud, clear proof. And this, Omram Zal, this is what our sages say in a different place. He wants to bring another proof. You have doubts? I'll give you another proof. Ma'esh velach vanachameich. Our sages say, the truth is, I don't know what this is. I can look it up, whatever. The verse says, what can I do for you to console you? When I'm going to be like you, how to be like, just like you. When I am like you, then I'm going to be consoled. What does that mean? Apirish Yadua, says the Ram. I'm going to explain to you. This is known. Because of course he knew everything. We don't know. He knew. This is, of course, it's known, says the Ram. What does that mean? That the nations of the world are going to be consoled when they are like us. What does that mean? So he brings a very interesting idea. Apirish Yadua says, the explanation of this is known. Shekol haktotos shebeinainu v'ha'umois en misibas chiluf ha'emuna. There's a mistake over there in one letter. Probably the OCR got the letter wrong. All the fights, all the arguments between us and the nations are just because of the different faith. We have one faith, they have another faith, and this is what makes all the problems. As it says in the Talmud. What does it say in the Talmud? One of the students said to Rav Kahana, Mi shami alach mai har Sinai. Do you know why this mountain is called Har Sinai? Why the word Sinai is strange, like the name. Where does the name come from? This is what one student asked Rav Kahana. Amalei, Rav Kahana answered, yeah, I'm going to explain to you the word Sinai. Har shenasu boi nisim leIsrael. This is a mountain that many miracles were done for the Jewish people. So the word Sinai comes from the word nes. Miracle, okay. The student wasn't really satisfied. I don't like your answer, master, my teacher. And he had a question. Har Sinai? Wait a second. If that's the explanation of the Mount Sinai, Har Nisoi Miboyele. Should have said a different name. Look at the word Sinai. It's Samach and then Nun. And the word nes, miracle, is nun and then samach. It's the other way around. The name doesn't really fit to your description. This is what the student said. I don't like your explanation, Rabbi. Elo. Okay, I give you another explanation. Har shenase boy siman toiv leIsrael. This is a mountain that there was a siman, like a good sign for the Jewish people. The Torah. Oh, very nice. Sinai, siman. Oh, very nice. Similar words. The student wasn't satisfied. No. Har simanoi mi boyele. It should have been called simanoi, not Sinai. You're missing a mem, a letter mem. Siman and Sinai. No, it doesn't fit. I don't like it. Give me another one. Omarlei. So the rabbi said, "My taima lo shechichas kamedera papa." You know what, student? Beravuna b'Rav Yeshua. Go ask a different rabbi. I can't give you any more explanations. I don't know. Why don't you go ask Rav Papa and Ravuna Bre Rav Yeshua? Go ask these two guys. They're experts in the stories of the Talmud. They're experts. Don't ask me anymore. I don't have any more explanations. The Rav Papa Ravuna Bre Rav Yeshua, the Amre Travayu. These two rabbis, Rav Papa and Rav Huna, son of Rav Yeshua, they both say the same idea. My Har Sinai, why was this mountain called Har Sinai? Sheyarda Sina le'umoisa oilam aleinu. Because through this mountain that God gave the Torah to the Jewish people, there's hate. And now it fits. Sinai and Sina are basically the same word, even though they're written differently. But some letters we can interchange. That's the whole thing in the language, whatever, in Hebrew language. So Sinai and Sina are basically the same word. Sina means hate, hatred. Through this mountain descended hatred to the nations of the world towards us. Because we have a Torah and they don't. So that's what Sinai means. Ukumoshe Omar, im imtzu es doidi, mas agidu loi, shechoila sa'ava ani, agidu loi, shekol chalaim, she'umu yisa'oilam hanal, mevin alai, einam bishvil she'ani ohev esaysoi. So it's a whole verse in Shir Hashirim, in the Song of Songs. The verse is like this. Just a second. Okay. As it says, the line starts, Kemoy. As it says, if you find him, she is saying in the Song of Songs, she's saying, if you find him, my beloved, what are you going to tell him? Go tell him that I'm sick of love for him. Choilas ava ani. I'm sick of love for him. This is what the woman says to the man in the whole Song of Songs. And the Talmud is explaining this verse. Hagidu loi, go tell him. So the Jewish people now, which is the woman, is telling God, if you find God, go tell him this following message. What's the message? All the sickness, all kol cholayim, all the sickness that the nations of the world bring on us, they are just because I love him. So the Jewish people is telling, so to speak, the nations of the world, all the problems you bring to us is because we love God, God loves us, and you have hatred towards us because God loves us and we love God. That's why it's called Har Sinai, this mountain that brings hatred. Okay? So the hatred comes from the special relationship the Jewish people have with God. That's why it's called Har Sinai. And that all started in the giving of the Torah, in the giving of the whatever, in Mount Sinai, etc., etc. Now goes back to the words of the Ran. The reason for this, just a second, let's go back a little bit, just to have the flow of the text. The Ran just proved from a play from the Gemara Avodah Zara, that's what it's called, that it clearly says that the non-Jews are going to convert in the world to come. And they're going to be just like us, just like Jews, fulfilling all the commandments from A to Z. And then he brings another proof. And this whole text of Mount Sinai is part of that proof. Okay, now let's go back to the Ran. Ve'atam bazeh. Line starts mevin, alai, etc. in the middle. Ve'atam bazeh. You see it? And the reason for this, because God separated us from all the nations. We cannot get married to them. You cannot get married to a non-Jew. A Jew cannot get married to a non-Jew. You cannot eat the same forbidden foods that they eat. And this furthering one on the other, and this difference between the Jew and the non-Jew, it brings to hatred. It's true. That's why our sages say, and this go back to his proof, in Gemara Shabbos, when we are the same, then you're going to be consoled. The fact of not being the same, that brings hatred. So when we're the same, there's not going to be any more hatred. Keloimar, the Rambam is explaining. This means the following thing. When you are going to be the same to you, the rest of the nations, that every one of them are going to have our same faith, achas, the same faith. And the Rambam said 2 times actually in the same small text, so to speak, the same exact things with all the details and all the commandments, etc., etc. Then everybody's going to be consoled. The non-Jews and the Jews, etc. Because then that's a complete console, so to speak, so consolement or whatever, whichever way you say it. There's not going to be after that, when Mashiach comes, no worry of wars, no hatred of the nations towards us. So the Ran says it very clearly. And he brings proofs from different places in the Talmud. Like, no doubts. No doubts. Now, having said all of this, let's learn just these things are known, nothing new, but let's learn what the Rambam says. The truth is that the Rambam is not clear. Why are we learning the Rambam, even though he's not clear? Because he was the only one that codified the laws for non-Jews and the laws in the times of Mashiach. All other commentaries and rabbis and sages, etc., they only spoke about the common things that we can do today, the commandments we can fulfill today, etc., etc. The Rambam codified all the Torah, the whole Torah. So we can try to find, we're not going to, but we can try to find if the Rambam actually mentioned this idea that the non-Jews are going to convert or not. Yes or not? So let's see. These are 3 places in the Rambam, short and easy ones. And the truth is that the Rambam is not clear. You could interpret the Rambam one way or the other way. So we're left with nothing, so to speak, in the Rambam itself. But it's interesting. The Lashon, the language is interesting. This is in Ilchos Isurei Bia, the forbidden relationships, in chapter 12, law 25. When Sancheriv, the king of Ashur, conquered part of the land of Israel, he, and actually many other places in the world, the known world at that time, the king of Assyria, he mixed all the nations. That was his hobby, so to speak. And he exiled them from their places. The reason for this was, he wasn't fool, he was very smart, to have people demoralize themselves. They're not in their land, they're not within their people, so they can't rebel against him. That's why he did it. But he mixed, the point is that he mixed all the nations. And the Egyptians that are found today, the days of the Rambam, okay, in the year 1000, today in Egypt, Ato now, Anashim Acherimem. They're not the original Egyptians. Forget it. We don't know who they are. The original ones, we don't know. The same thing happens with the Edoimim that are in the land of Edom. They're not the original ones. And since the four nations that the Torah says that cannot convert, they got mixed with everybody else, everybody can convert now. We don't ask, do you come from Egypt? What do you mean? Who cares? Everybody can convert. Because any human being, any person, non-Jew, that wants to convert, he's separating himself or herself, whatever, from the rest of the non-Jews. And the most of non-Jews, the Roif, most of them are not these four people, Egyptians and Edom. Forget it. There are so many more non-Jews than these four nations. So we assume that this non-Jew that wants to convert comes from some other nation. Therefore, when a person converts today, in the when a person wants to convert anywhere, it's in Edom, in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, in Ammon, Moav, the south of Eretz Israel, it's black, Cushi from Africa, or for any other nation, I don't care. Man, woman, they can convert and become a full Jew. It doesn't matter what it looks like, where it comes from, it doesn't matter. This is law number one, like anybody can convert, all of them. Different place. Isurei Bia, another law in the same group of laws of prohibitions, forbidden relationships. See, the Rambam is quoting the Talmud we learned. That's why they did not receive converts in the days of David HaMelech, King David and Shlomo. Why? In the days of David, we say that maybe they're afraid that King David is going to kill them, and therefore they're not really converting because they want to be Jew. They're afraid. And in the days of Shlomo Melech, maybe because of the kingship and the goodness and the greatness of the Jewish people, that's why they want to be Jewish. So we don't accept them. Why? Continues. Any person from the idolaters that wants to become Jew because of one of the stupid things of the world, like to have money, because the Jews have money, or to be smart, because the Jews are smart, or because the Jews, forget it. That is not a righteous convert. We don't need this guy, this woman, this man, whatever. We don't need this. Listen to these words. Even so, there were converts, a lot, says the Rambam, a lot of converts converting in the days of David and Shlomo. Hey, I just said we don't receive them. Yeah, but there were a lot, How did they convert? From in front of simple, but they didn't, simple judges, not really great rabbis. But they converted. So what do we do with these guys? I just told you, you can't convert. And they converted anyway. The great judge, the highest court of the Jewish people, they were like worried. Let's look to these guys. I don't know. Let's check out. We're not going to say no, and we're not going to say yes. What do you see? We don't reject them. They converted, but it wasn't such a good conversion. We don't reject them because they went to the mikveh. The process, so to speak. However, we don't bring them close either until we see how they finish. Let's wait. Are you going to kick them out of the synagogue? No, you can't do that. Are you going to call them to all your activities? No, don't call them. But let's wait and see what happens. And if this person proves to behave like a Jew, etc., etc. So there are converts. So from this law, even though the Rambam is not clear, and this is only my input, so to speak, my interpretation of the Rambam is quoting that Talmud, that part of the Talmud that says we don't receive converts in the days of Shloime and David, and that piece of the Talmud is right by the other piece of the Talmud that says we don't receive converts in the days of Mashiach. So the Rambam just cut a piece of the Talmud, left it out, and it only brought this piece of the Talmud. Why didn't they receive the converts, etc., etc.? But the same reason that why we didn't receive converts in the days of Shloime and David applies to the days of Mashiach. But the Rambam didn't say it. You could have just quoted like 5 more words, and that's it. You're clear. So it's not so clear. It's not so simple. And you could perfectly say that this applies to the days of Mashiach also. In Hebrew, it's called lechatchila. In first instance, we're not going to receive them. We're not going to convert them. But if they convert, we're not going to reject them. But we're not going to bring them close either until we really find out that these people are sincere. Last quote. This is from the end, basically, of the Rambam, where he talks about Mashiach, the last 2 chapters. This is from the last chapter. Don't think that in the days of Mashiach, something is going to be annulled in the common things in the world. Don't think the world is going to be changed. Don't think there's going to be miracles and things, strange things. One parenthesis that is not in the text. This piece of the Rambam is very deep. I mean, it's very easy to read. But in itself, the Rebbe has a whole long explanation of this. And it's really talking about 2 different times in the days of Mashiach itself. So I'm not going to go into the whole deepness of this, but basic understanding. Don't think the world is going to change. Nothing is going to change. Or there's going to be like a renewal of the creation. Wow, now human beings are going to fly. No. Nothing is going to change. The Rambam is quoting actually the Talmud. The world conducts itself just as we know it. You're going to have a problem with this. Big problem. Why? Because in Ishaya, in many places, there are many miracles in the days of Mashiach. So what does the Rambam say? So he knows this question. You're going to bring me verses in Ishaya. And the verse says, the wolf will live with the lamb. And there's going to be like a panther, whatever, some tiger, some kind of animal like this, living with another animal, gedis, like chivo in Spanish. I don't know, I forgot the name. Whatever. They're going to be together. Instead of the panther eating this small animal, Mashal v'chida, says the Rambam. That's just an example. It's not literal. It's an example. Again, in a different place, the Rambam says something else. In the Geres Taiman, the Rambam says, I actually don't agree to what I wrote before. But whatever, let's just go with this text. So what's the example? The thing is like this. The Jewish people are going to be sitting in tranquility together with the wicked idolaters, that they are like the wolf and the panther. At least today, because in the world to come, they're not going to be like that. We don't know if they're going to be Jewish or not. Okay, we don't know that, but at least they're not going to be evil people. However, today they are. So what the verse is saying is, okay, those people that you think that today you're going to eat, they're going to eat you. Don't worry. In the days of Mashiach, you're going to be with them together in peace. Shenemar, it says in Yirmiyahu, Zev Arovois Yeshodedem v'nomer shoked al oreim. There's a wolf of the wilderness that it's going to destroy like anybody that wants to be against you, and the panther is going to be guarding your cities. Okay, so very nice. This is the most difficult words. I mean, this is where the Rambam is. What does it mean? Everybody is going to go back to the true religion. We're going to go back to this in a minute. Let's finish the text. Nobody is going to steal. Nobody is going to be perverted. Everybody is going to eat the permitted things together in peace with the Jewish people. As it says in Ishaya again, the lion is going to, just as the cow, eat straw. All these things that are talking about the days of Mashiach are just examples. And when Mashiach actually comes, then everybody is going to know actually what this meant. What this meant. What did Ishaya mean? You see, now you understand it. What was the issue alluded to in this particular verse? Now, the difficult words of the Rambam over here is, what did he mean when he said, everybody is going to go back to the true religion? Does it mean that everybody is going to convert? You could say yes. Does it mean that nobody's going to convert, but they're not going to bother the Jewish people? Yes, you could say that also. The Rambam is not clear. Definitely not clear. And again, you have two sources, actually three, in the Talmud itself. You have Brachos, again, going to the beginning, 57, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar clearly says everybody is going to convert. Then you have Yevamos 24, nobody's going to convert, forget it, no way. And then you have the Ran, which is in itself, he himself today, he is a source, not like the Talmud, but he is a source, and he brings the Talmud in Avodah Zarah, that he says clearly everybody's going to convert. Rabbi Eliezer says this, and Rabbi Yosef questions, and he agrees afterwards. And then he brings another Gemara in Shabbos that brings the whole idea of Har Sinai. Why is it called Har Sinai? And the Ran explains there's going to be a time where there's not going to be hatred between the nations and the Jewish people, because everybody's going to be the same. Everybody is going to convert. So conclusion, you can think whatever you want. But these are the sources.